Welcome to Urban Homestead Artists. There's a lot in today's video, including an archway that we've put in that's just absolutely beautiful, and we've done it on the cheap. You've got to watch that. What's been happening in the garden, jobs around the garden, and a showcase of my artwork finally. So there's a lot of artwork in this video, there's tips in this video, and there's the best garlic bread you can ever make. How to make it easy, but how to make a really good garlic bread. I'm using my red onions that have come out of the garden and not keepers, the bits that aren't keepers. I'm using them up today, and I'll show you really quickly how to do that. There's so much more. Sit back, grab a drink and enjoy, and thanks for coming back if you have. It's a great day to be gardening, and I just thought I would share a few little gardening jobs that I'm doing today. If you want to live vicariously through me because you don't have enough space for a garden, or you're a keen gardener like me and like to absorb what everyone else is doing in their garden, we just like to wander around each other's garden, come with me and I'll show you just a few jobs I'm doing today after we've had quite a bit of rain. So we're late November in East Melbourne, eastern suburb of Melbourne, and we have had some quite unusual, well, it's not unusual weather, it's just actually pretty good weather, because we've had a warmth and then we've had the rain and and some people are complaining, but I'm kind of really enjoying it. My garden's enjoying it. We've had a bit of a thunderstorm which really gave it's fertilised my garden. It's just given it a big boost and everything's taken off. However, I've got to manoeuvre around this rain, so take advantage of it. This is what I've done this morning. About 10 o'clock I've gone out and see all my brassicas. There's one there. I've gone around to all the brassicas and checked them for the cabbage worm, for the caterpillar, the little green caterpillar. They're so hard to spot, but after a heavy rain, look what happens. Heaps of babies. These are the ones that are hard to find too. Most of these you'll find underneath, and some of these are just hatched. They're still very sticky on threads, so I think they've recently hatched, but you'll find them on the underside. The big ones on the top side is what I found today. 10 a.m. after a heavy rain, out in the garden while it's still cool, and they'll be out to play. Lots of chicken feed here. Oh girls, look what I got for you. Buggy bugs, caterpillars, woohoo. Now I'm noticing a few jobs screaming at me. This is if you go back into my videos, you'll see our new garden bed here. Was up here, and I had my young berries climbing very neatly and very well trained on either side of one of the walls that came right up to this greenhouse here. Now when we moved it, I kind of slumped it over that chair, and it's continued to grow young berries. I've been picking every second day. Nice big punnet, you know, the little punnets, the big punnets. And I've been picking that, throwing a couple to our resident blue tongue, and because he's been hiding just there, and it's continued to just grow in here as any blackberry type weedy berry. So I haven't been able to get to it, but after the rain is a really good time to start looking at pulling some of that up. Not only that, these sort of days are great for potting up your plants, for moving your little seedlings from the little cell trays to bigger pots, for taking cuttings, for transplanting. So if I transplant those young berries into pots and uproot them, they're going to take really quickly and be quite happy in the pots because it's really nice, mild, cool but not cold weather, and it's after the rain, after they've had a good soak, they've had a really good night, and so they'll be happy. It's trying to give me an abundance of berries next year. Like if I let this grow and just, pulled it up, because it's just lying there. And it's not as bad as you think because it's actually growing mainly out of that spot. If I trained it up, then I would have masses and masses and masses of berries next year. However, it's not the best spot for it, and I am concerned about it just going in here because it's started to root in a place. There's stones in between here, and I'll just show you. Said that nothing would grow in there before, but they have managed to drop their heads down, and I think there's a couple planted in there. And the other reason is you see these leaves here. These are my scarlet runner beans that were planted last year that are trying to come back up. I want to give them sun, so I want to pull this away. And there's also lots of berries in there. You can see that? There's lots of berries in there, mind you. The lizard's probably coming in here and eating them. And there's plants under there and a few pots. So, yeah, it needs to be cleaned up. The other thing I've had growing here for quite a while is my mustard greens, which have gone to seed. And you see some of the pods have dried off. However, we've had this rain and this is not a good time to be pulling them out. I really want to get rid of this now. I want to pull it out. It's taking up a rather large space in that little garden. You can see there. That's the edge. Yes, my lawns need doing as well. But I can't pull up now until I have some dry weather. We're expected a couple of days of nice warm weather, and I'm hoping it'll dry enough to pull it out then. But in the meantime, I can have a go at that, and that will make a big difference. Now, what's very exciting is I've never grown cabbages before, and I came around checking the brassicas, and look, I have got a baby started in there. Now, the cabbage caterpillar wants to eat it, as you can see. It's been having a go at the leaves. This is one I've not done, so I want to show you. See the babies? All the babies hatching. So those I just cut with my fingernail, and if I find any big ones, I've been giving them to the chickens, which they're hovering the door right now because they've had about, I don't know, 3 or 4 dozen nice big caterpillars this morning, and they're very happy with me. So they're kind of hanging around going, are you finding more of them, guys? so you just check the under the leaf and on top of the leaf naturally. What on earth? That was just a bit of stem of something. There's not a lot on this one. I haven't checked this one, but there doesn't seem to be a lot on these. Oh, hang on. Did I just miss one? No. I'll keep an eye on that though. And what I might do is to dust it with flour. Flour is a stomach poison for them, so I'll dust it with that. I'm checking the volunteers that are coming up and trying to determine. This is the time of year all the this is a weed. I'll just weed as we talk. The volunteers pop up in the garden, so you can see. But some of them, I put a salad mix in here, like an Italian salad mix, and I'm actually sure of what's growing in here or have seeded in here, so I'm letting it go. So that's a yacon. I'm just doing, it's turned into a garden tour. I just need to move along because I'm doing jobs. Hello. Now that, I have to look that up. I'm pretty sure I just put in one of my, something I grew, I think, and it rotted in the house, so I threw it in the garden, I think. It's starting to rain. The garden has just gone boom since we've had these warm days, then some rain, warm days. It's just been almost like perfect, really. Very little watering. and I'm just about to harvest my very first pepinos, which I've had to put in a bag because the first lot that grew were eaten by wildlife. And oh my goodness, were they good. Everyone in the house loved them. These are going to be a favourite in our salads particularly. They taste a lot like cucumber but much sweeter. So it's raining. It's raining. Now, I thought we'd done for the day, so I was going to go out there, but apparently not done for the day. So I collected the eggs. The white things on my eggs are shredded paper, which I thought would help save some money on the sawdust that we use. I thought it might help with their bedding and make it a bit more fluffy, but don't use it, guys. It sticks to the eggs. So I'm always pulling the paper off, and they're not like fortune cookies. We don't really want the writing on them. So we're inside. I'll go back out there. I'll go back out there when it settles down. Maybe it won't today, so I might have to chop and jump back in. So I fed the chooks, collected the eggs, and I've just washed my hands and clean my glasses so I can see again. But I like to spend a bit of time with my chickens when I feed them. I don't like to rush that. I like to give them the treats and talk to them and give them a bit of a pat sometimes, so that they, for two reasons, just so they know me and trust me. And also there's the side where you have some bossy chooks and you want them to also know who's the head chook, head hen. So when you walk in there with not gumboots, you walk in there with thongs, they don't go for your toes. so you want them to know that, you know, what's limits and what's off limits. But while we're in the house, look out my window. Excuse the dirty window, but out the window in one of the sections of my garden that hasn't got a lot in, it's been one that I've kind of laid down mulch and let it sit. I've planted a little bit in more around the corner of that part of the house behind those trees, but this big tree here is an ornamental pear. Now that is one that we have cut back so hard we thought we might kill it. It took up that whole area. So it would literally have probably another 3 meters of foliage on it, which took up the whole area, shaded out the whole area, and I couldn't grow much in it. I had some salvias that were quite happy along the fence line, which I've still got some in there, and the honey eaters and the wattlebirds love them. And I've got the ornamental clivias, which are put on quite a show alongside, just down there near that building, which is my studio. The tree is great for putting pots under, just to protect from the sun when it gets really hot, but it shaded out the whole lot. So we have cut it back hard and left it there. Now it is a beautiful tree when it goes to blossom, although we haven't had a lot of blossom on it because we've been severely cutting it back. But it's very, very stunning when it's blossomed. So it's been a tree I've been reluctant to get rid of, but more and more I'm trying to replace plants with things that we can eat. Like I'm thinking long-term sustainability, you know, and food on our plate, and, you know, more money in our hands and, you know, less going to the grocery store. So I've been trying to do that. So today I thought to myself, I've not done grafting before, but I wonder if I could graft edible pears on that, like on that ornamental pear. Thinking, you know, rootstock, you can grow onto rootstock, so maybe, and you can, apparently. I watched a couple of YouTube channels. I will mention it down the channels down the bottom, the videos down the bottom, and you can do that. So I'm planning to graft onto that, and so it's got even a, you know, a better purpose in taking up all that room and that growing space. I have this beautiful red camellia which I painted. I'll just show you that. So this is the flower on the bush. They are beautiful. And I painted in pastel. It's just a beautiful, beautiful flower. So I am reluctant to take it out, but, you know, food's more important now. So these are the clivias. These are pictures of my clivias alongside the studio. They make great border edges, which are also painted in pastel. So I'm going to move them from this growing area to the front of our property where my passerbys and neighbours can enjoy the display, but the snails do love them, so I have to watch the snails. Now, it was always my intention to not just grow the food and have flowers around me, but to be able to have time out there in my sanctuary and to paint and draw and fully express myself in the garden. So I have started to do that, but there's so much more I want to do. I just had to get my garden going. And as much as I love, love, love those flowers, and this is very beautiful when it does flower, it also attracts scale. So under the leaves, I get scale and sooty mold. So I'm spraying each year, which is frustrating. And I'm spraying each year because it's so hard to get to all of those tips or underneath those tips because it's right in the corner here of my kitchen window. So I'm thinking about taking that out and replacing that with something else, an edible tree, or I have got a plant that feeds my heart more than my stomach, a beautiful climbing rose, a scented one, and I might request my husband make something to put over there. We put some sort of sturdy arch outside the window and grow that over there with maybe small shrubs underneath, edible shrubs underneath, because there's quite a bit of soil down there not being used, and nothing much likes to grow under that camellia. I've tried different seedlings and that, and I do have birds, pigeons and blackbirds that come in and dig up underneath there all the time. So in fact there was a nest that it's no longer being used. I've checked, it hasn't been used for a long time. They've abandoned it, I think because I have a predator bird that raids the nests, but they've abandoned it, so I'm not taking away somebody's home. Thinking of taking that out and doing that. And behind there I have, where you can see that tall rose, which is also the scale I've had a scale issue on that, which I've just been able to fix that. There's a Fujoa, pineapple guava at the back of there. Been growing broad beans along there. I've just put in corn and I want the sun to get to the corn. Before we chop that back, there's no way I could have put corn in there. I've also not been able to touch this area much because there's been fencing going in for a long time, and now it's in. Now I can plant safely and know it's not going to be dug up or stepped on. And I've got an orange tree behind there, and you can see this banana popping up there. And around there, I do have things growing around the corner there. So I just thought while we're in the house, I'll just show you this tree. And if in case anybody does have the ornamental cherry, pear, apple, one of the fruit trees, you can graft the same kind of fruit onto it. So, cherries onto a cherry tree. Although I think with the videos I watched said that a stone fruit can be grafted onto a stone fruit. I don't think you have to particularly have a cherry onto a cherry, ornamental cherry, so to speak. So I found some photos so you can see the enormity of this tree and how beautiful it is in the autumn, which of course I took advantage of that and painted this area and painted my husband who was doing some jobs in this area at the time, and my studio, which is at the back. But it dropped so many leaves, which was awesome for mulch. We allowed it to mulch in place mainly. Some went into the compost, and we later properly mulched it with cardboard and pea straw, and then again about 12 months ago in wood chips. So it has been sitting there waiting for a garden to go in on the main part of the land there. And in the interim, I've used small sections around it to grow some food. So although we're still not fully utilising this area, it is a really good idea to get mulch down and have areas laying under mulch for a period of time before you even need it. And once my husband cut back that tree, we were a bit scared we'd lose it, but we didn't. He cut back that tree, it opened that area back up, and as you've seen, as that tree has grown, it's creating some shade, but it's not blanking out that whole area. We used the offcuts in a hugelkultur bed recently. That can be seen in our chicken house makeover. And I've painted it since too. Probably an unsuspecting thing to paint, but it's good to paint all different things, and it's nice to have a little bit of a record of my garden and my yard as we go. And while I'm taking my coffee into the lounge and chatting to you, I'll mention something I will be demonstrating, although I haven't done it, so it'll be a learner demonstrating. So I'll only publish it if it works out, so people aren't wasting their time. But I have cherry trees growing in my property from suckers from my neighbour's cherry. And we also have a very old cherry tree that was on our property that's never done anything. It's growing in a bad situation for the cherry tree, and it's not been pruned. So it's just been hacked at just to get past and not been pruned. We didn't know if it was a edible cherry or not. I got a feeling it was, but it just has not been pruned. So I'm going to try and correct that if I can. If not, it has also got suckers. So I'm going to take them off from the mother plant. We might end up chopping down the old one. And I'm going to try and grow those and prune them correctly to see if I can get some cherries off it. But because apparently you can grow them and they will fruit. And of course my neighbour who's growing these beautiful cherries, who looks after his cherries, I look after them too. I scare off the cockies when I see them land on it for him. But he doesn't want suckers taking life from his cherries. So I'm going to make sure that we free those from his tree, and they're not robbing from his tree. I didn't know that for a while. Wasn't sure if they had seeded. Cherries had been dropped there, or like had grown from pips, or the person that had this property before, because there was some things on here. I wasn't sure if they were planted here, so I didn't know to sever them from that other tree. But now I've worked it out. So you learn it along the way, but that's food. It might take 3 or 4 years, although they're so old already. It might take less to get fruit, but I didn't have to pay for a cherry tree, or actually I think there's four babies there. I didn't have to pay for 4 cherry trees. I probably could just pot some up for my parents' place even too. So I went back outside and grabbed my sweet potato, and it's got beans in here, and I'm putting it on a tray and putting the heat mat on, because I really want these to sprout, and then I'm going to sprout if the weather goes cold again. So we'll do that. I don't have a container big enough to put over this, but I'll put that over the sweet potato at least, so that's got a bit humid. The beans won't matter so much, but the sweet potato, if it'll stay on. Here we go. And 4 days later, Borlotti beans are up. These are seeds that I got out of a soup mix in the cupboard. Looks like most of them are germinated. They're rupturing like they're in an earthquake, because I've used cheap potting mix rather than seed raising mix. Being bigger seeds, I didn't worry about it, but I did give it a generous sprinkle of cinnamon over the top. The sweet potato hasn't grown any slips yet. I know that can take a while, so we're not seeing any slips yet. But let's get back outside to that bed and the young berries. It continued to rain for days. It was persistent and very difficult to film, but I've got some footage for you. My husband made a structure from a couple of poles, and we strung, or should I say screwed, fencing wire across so I could support the young berries. I untangled them as best as I could and put them up. There's probably as many fruiting canes as there is young canes growing. But also a couple had perhaps seeded, because I noticed a couple of young plants popping up on their own, and they had thorns. Also, one root had shot off, a little side root that was very thorny as well. These are thornless variety, which actually clumps. It grows more in a clump than spreading like a lot of berries can, although I'm sure it does. I've rescued this yellow golden beetroot that I'm growing onto seed and put it at the end, out of the way. I've also got walking Egyptian onions under there. And if you're wondering what my netting was, it's just a recycle job. It's a ripped wedding dress petticoat that someone was giving away in a free group, and whenever there's tulle available for free, I grab it because they make great coverings. It's not quite covering it enough, but it's covering most of the berries. With a few clothes pegs, it actually did the job. Naturally, we picked some, and my husband was eating them as they go. The boys like to eat them off the bush. I like these berries very ripe. The boys love them when they have a bit of tartness to them. My husband thinks they taste just like blackberries. I don't think they're quite as sweet as blackberries personally, and I do like them when they're very black in colour or very deep red. Like you can see the different colours in there. I like the really dark ones. My boys will eat them pretty much any colour. I mean, they prefer it darker, but any colour. But they're a pretty generous plant to have. We're also getting about a 500 gram punnet every second day from it. Now, this is only kind of the first year. I planted very close to flowering or fruiting the first time. That's a nice big one. And got 3 berries, but this time we've had hundreds and hundreds. Also picking the white currants for the very first time, which I definitely have to net or I get none. They are very tart. They really tart, like a lemon tart. But I think I may have picked mine a little bit too early. But nonetheless, it's exciting to actually have some currants to pick. These grew into a 1 metre bush pretty quickly as well. Now, because we've had so much rain and it kept on raining, I had to pull some garlic up. I lost some of my garlic. But check out my elephant garlic. It's got all its babies. They'll grow on. But look at the size of it. I'm pretty happy with that. Oh yeah, you can't have it. Yeah, and these are all the little babies. So they'll grow on. They're trying to grow, I think. It's huge. I have them growing in different areas of the garden, and surprisingly, where it was wetter, they did better. These were the biggest ones. That's my red garlic. It's very lacking. It's about half the size it should be. But you can see even there how big those elephant garlics are. These are the babies, and I'll plant those. They'll take a couple of years probably, but I will definitely not waste them, and I'll plant them. You can eat them, and some people, when they've got a lot of them, pickle them like pickled onions. So I'm definitely going to be growing them again next April. I've got these out on the veranda now. They probably need to go in, some of them. And before I go, I've got a couple other things to show you, and one I'm very excited about. But please, if you're enjoying my videos and appreciate me spending the time making them for you, please like and subscribe and share. It'd be great if you share or you recommended my channel. I am growing a few unusual things this year. Lots of new things for us to try. It's always good to try those things. But my garden, my spring garden, is a little bit late in some areas, but pretty on time for others. But I suspect we're going to have quite a lot of produce this year compared to our first year. One of the jobs we need to do is we use this area of our chicken pen for compost. It's beautiful compost. These girls turn everything we put in there into lovely soil for us, and we repeatedly fill it with sorry, there's always an aeroplane above us these days, or helicopters. Just so busy in the sky now. Okay, they're circling, so we'll just keep going. So we put wood chips in here and put a lot in here, and of course they get all their scraps, and I like to throw all the garden scraps on the soil. It's good for them to do that. And but they so quickly turn it into soil. And would you believe, yesterday my husband dug out this area to about, I don't know, about 6 to 8 inches, and there was a wall across here, and in a day they've dug all the soil back and filled it in. We could not believe it when we come out and saw they'd filled it back in. They are such fast composters. So as we've dug it out, we've put it into these garden areas. I've got asparagus growing along here. It needed mulching and I didn't have the mulch, so I've put some paper down and just put the compost out directly out from the chook pen, and I'm hoping it's not too rich to plant into. I have found that I've got away with it recently, so I'm giving that a go. And I've put some plants in there. My dad brought up some extra tomatoes that are a bit more advanced than what I had, and we've put them in, plus a couple of seedlings, a few bits and pieces, and things that we have moved because I have a new vertical growing area, which is really great. And so we're slowly getting this fence line, things growing. You need to cover the ground to stop the weeds, and I get a lot of grass growing from next door. The soil is obviously very healthy because we have got mushrooms popping up everywhere. I'm assuming they're not the edible kind, although something's enjoying them. Who knows? Probably not though. Well, they might be. They're not going yellow. I don't know my mushrooms, so I don't eat them. If you could tell me if they are, that would be great. But when you scratch them, they're not going yellow. Anyhow, I'm a bit, I played extra safe there. So we are gradually creating gardens along here. The fence will eventually have to be replaced because it's getting bed on, just like the others, but for now I can grow here. I've moved all the rhubarbs the other day, put some seedlings in, and I might show you that because I took some footage, so I'll quickly show you that. I've done it very basically, used what I have and moved them there. We'll eventually have this part not grass everywhere and growing into parts of this garden that was done. So the grass kind of start creeping in this way. And look at, I want to show you the size of one of my asparagus. And it's absolutely huge, right? I'm letting this go to fern, but can you see how thick that is? Like seriously, that's my finger. They are so thick. They are so healthy. So that's because I didn't touch them for a while. I've given them the time and not harvested from them too early. I've got a spear down here. Occasionally from the really healthy ones, we might knock off a spear or two, but pretty much we're leaving them, so they're growing, but we're leaving them go to fern and not harvesting much at all. But look how happy they are. That's a happy asparagus. Good grief. Where did that tomato come from? That's a volunteer with a very thick stem on it. That's a volunteer that's popped up there. They're doing better than my seeds in the garden. It's phenomenal how seeds that are climatised to your yard grow so strong as opposed to, you know, ones that you buy in. Now I'm getting our very first banana passion fruit. So it's flowering, but I'm seeing my very first fruit there. And the caterpillars that are coming on here, I've noticed each day when I come out there's wasps hanging around, like predatory wasps. So I think they are dealing with them. Obviously they're still eating at this kale. This kale will be fine. I'm not too worried about it, but I wanted to hit it with the flower, but there is a wasp. So I do want to encourage the predatory insects as much as possible. And my inedible, not as opposed to edible, sweet peas, which smell amazing, are starting to pot up. And they put on quite a show. I put a little bit of wire around a banana there for them to latch onto, and they filled a little spot for a period of time. But let me show you what I'm very excited about, because we've been doing things with wire, and I will show you. Look at this, my gardening friends. We put these together this week and I'm so excited because it's given me all that vertical space to try all sorts of pumpkins and that. So what we did, show you what we did, because we do everything on the cheap here. We bought very cheap, inexpensive garden arches that you put together. They were under $35 each, Australian. I bought 2 for every arch. We put them together and we had this wire left over, which we did pay for obviously, but this wire left over from the first layer on the chicken pen. So we'd put this wire on our chicken pen, then finer or smaller holes over this wire. So we had this, and we have tied it to the 2 arches to make wide arches, and we've put 1, 2, 3 down here. So we can grow up the wall of this wire cage here, but also we've got these arches, and this will make a lovely little walk-through arch here. We still have access to go all the way around the wire bed, but I've got all this growing space. So I've just started to plant a couple of things in, like the tomatoes in the gaps from my dad. But it's ready for when my little baby squashes are ready to go in the ground, which is very soon, and to try some new seeds that I've got that I've never grown, some edible gourds that are meant to be nice to eat, not hard. So I've bought seeds for snake gourds and a couple of bottle gourds. So I'm waiting for them to germinate. We had trouble, they didn't come, and so the seller had to send another lot to me. They disappeared. So I've finally got them. They're later than I'd like, but yeah. So the garden is going along nicely. Over here in the pots here, first time growing tromboncinos, and they are looking very happy in this pot. And I'm contemplating, should I move the pot over near the arches or actually give it its own support here up and let it grow over the top of that. What do you think? I'm being greedy with my space, going, how much can I grow? Because I didn't get any pumpkins last year. We love pumpkins and squashes and things like that. So I really want to try to grow as much as I can this year. You only get one crack at it a year, don't you? So that's my black currant. This is what I was telling you. They're about 1 metre. That's the one I picked from at the back there. I put it back under the net, but they grow really quickly. And this one here, I grew from cuttings off a young one. When I got that one, I got the black, red and the white. And this one I trimmed it and stuck a cutting in the ground, and it's actually almost as big as the mother plant. So they grow really well from cuttings just pushed into ground if the ground's nice and moist. So not a lot in here that's big, but lots of babies. And my corn started over there because I've got the height in here now. I grew it last year and it kind of touched the roof. And I've got some scarlet runner beans growing on the outside. Lots of bits and pieces in here. Even peanuts. I grew these years ago. I haven't grown them since, but we've got some peanuts in here too. And we have just tipped into December. So even though this is my November video, we just tipped into December. And I can't wait to show you in a few weeks' time what's happening here. Thanks for keeping me company. And for those who watch to the end, you're awesome. I'll see you next time.